morning and welcome back to Studio 2. Are you curious to know what's new on the market? We now have some brand new authors pitching their debut books to you. Hope all of you readers enjoy these fresh ideas and let our newest authors on the blog convince you to buy their books. We now request to play the videos.
Just say that there is a technical error and we will restart it.
Apologies for the technical error. We're going to restart the session again.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mona Shah, and I'm a debut author of my book, Millennials Poised to Lead. Let me begin by asking you whether you want to live in a world where individuality is at its peak, even as communities are at their empowered best. If you think it is time for the world to change course towards kindness and sustainability, and if you think it is possible that the digital revolution could ring in better days for humanity, this book is for you. Millennials Poised to Lead is a narrative of my life and the times I spent raising millennials of my own at home and at the university as a full time academic, grooming the cohort for its future. I have used personal cameos and deep research and have presented the story of millennials as an intergenerational perspective. There are short stories of you and me with which I ask my readers to reflect on questions of the why, the how, the what, and the what ifs of all things millennial. By knowing what Naila, Sheila, Dan, Abin, Vinny, and even Zed went through, you could probably connect and empathize with all of them, or perhaps even find yourself in one of them. You also will find in your midst a Kathy Wu, a Keisha, an Alina, and Fernando, regardless of which part of the world you belong. In the perfect problem, the co-opetition syndrome, the participation trophy, the dharma, philia, and Ubuntu conundrum, you will immerse yourself in interesting perspectives that could perhaps act as steers if you are a millennial yourself, you're leading millennials, or even raising them. I thank all the reviewers, readers, and owners of this book for making it a bestseller on Amazon in India and number 67 worldwide in the sociology section. I also urge those who haven't to order their copy on Amazon or on Vayati systems. After all, it is a generation which is the future. Happy reading.
Millennials Poised to Lead is surely a book by a reflective practitioner, Dr. Mona Shah. And I'm sure that this book will serve as a guiding beacon to the professionals who are dealing with millennials so that they can leverage their strength and potential and can help them be a great leader.
Congratulations, Mona. This is a deeply insightful, well researched look at intergenerational conflict and can provide a lot of help to organizations and educational institutes to build healthy and cohesive relationships.
Millennials poised to lead in 2 words, I think it will be hashtag relatable in a digital millennial way. This book is not just any other book. I think it is a survival kit for us millennials to understand who we really are and what we are capable of achieving in the future.
Millennials Poised to Lead gives us the insight pertaining to socio-economical, technological, political changes, scenarios, what we have witnessed, which I don't think any previous generations could have thought of. But at the same time, it gives us the sense of responsibility and to deliver for the next generations.
It gives you a basic understanding how the transformation of generation has been kept on happening over the period of time, and also helps you to understand how millennials will shape in the future.
It compels us to acknowledge our primal nature, and from that realization that we are not blank slate, it pushes us to find solution. An absolute joy to read, highly recommended.
If you are into the leadership role, managing a multi-generational team, or leading a team of millennials, or your manager or boss is a millennial, then this book of Professor Mona Shah, Millennials Poised to Lead, is must for you.
It was March 2020, and we decided to shut down Grab on Rent, a business which I had passionately built over the last 5 years. My mental state was definitely severely affected. I was sad, and I was spiraling down into a loop of negative mental health. But I resolved to fix my thoughts. I googled to understand what exactly did other leaders who had faced similar thoughts, similar negativity did in those difficult times. But I found nothing. Unfortunately, the stories discussed about how today's leaders magically change their bad fortunes in times of distress. But nobody told me which exercises did they go through or which kind of a routine did they conduct in order to improve their mental health. So, I read more than 25 books. I consulted a therapist and I spoke to more than 25 CEOs globally. And surprisingly, I learned the power of vulnerability when those CEOs reciprocated their learnings in the war times of running their own businesses, and what did they learn, what did they do, and what actually helped them in those times to come out of the situation in one single piece. Basically, I was not alone. This exercise helped me to recollect all the past events that took place at Grab on Rent in a very different light. This time, there were no regrets, there was no failure, there were no complaints, and definitely there was no sadness. All there was to take home were learnings. Had I not shared my thoughts with all those CEOs, I would have missed every single chance to learn from all my failures. I'm happy that I could compile the lessons I learned during my 7-year-long journey into this book. I believe that aspiring entrepreneurs and the leaders of tomorrow should avoid falling for the same pitfalls in which the leaders of yesteryears have already fallen for, and rather they should make newer mistakes. This book is a no bullshit, a real startup story. It will take you on my journey right from the day one where I resolved to build a startup to the day when I decided to shut it down after passionately investing 5 years of my life. It will take you from the day when I hired the first person to the day when I sadly had to fire a large team in a single day. But it also will take you through a person who had a poor mental health to a great rejuvenated spirit. Make Fewer Mistakes is a book that talks about courage and vulnerability going hand in hand. It talks about inviting and working with friends together, and when you're not sure how will your friendship be dented because of your working relationship. It will talk about how to inspire teams that can offer sweat and tears for your vision. It will talk about raising the first check. It will talk about how can you possibly lose all that money that you had raised in the first place. It tells you to ask difficult questions before you take that first check from an investor or before you appoint a banker. And it talks about the global researches and deep investigation which has been done on how self-serving CEOs can bring down a company just because of their ego. So, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a leader of tomorrow and you don't want to hear anything sugar coated but a real startup story without any bullshit and learn from the mistakes of other founders, you should definitely pick up this book and make fewer mistakes in your journey.
Hi, book lovers. This is Veena Rao, author of Purple Lotus, which released this past fall in the US and around the world. And I'm super, super excited to make my virtual debut at the Pune International Literary Festival. So, if I had to talk about my book in 5 words, it's about one woman's journey towards self awareness. And the slightly longer version is Tara, my protagonist, moves from her hometown, Bangalore, in southern India, to the American South 3 years after her arranged marriage to tech executive Sanjay. Ignored and lonely, Tara keeps regressing back to her childhood memories that have scarred her. When she was 8, her parents left her behind with her aging grandparents and a schizophrenic uncle, but they took her baby brother with them to make a new life for the family in Dubai. So Tara's memories of abandonment and isolation mirror her present life of increasing loneliness and escalating abuse at the hands of her husband. When she accepts the help of kind hearted American strangers to fight Sanjay, she is pressured by her patriarchal family to make peace with her circumstances and to try harder to make her marriage work because log kya kahenge, right? And then, in a moment of truth, Tara discovers the importance of self worth. It gives her the courage to break free, to gently rebuild her life, and even risk being shunned by the community when she marries her childhood crush, Cyrus, who comes back into her life. Life with Cyrus is beautiful until old fears come knocking. Tara must ultimately face these fears in order to save her marriage and also to face the victim shaming patriarchal community that she was raised within. Purple Lotus is the winner of the 2019 She Writes Press STEP manuscript contest, which is open annually to women of color. And I believe my book will resonate with fans of Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, Jhumpa Lahiri, Tiari Jones, and Ita Frum. Although I do believe my book is unique in that it breaks stereotypes of what a feminist narrative should be, of how a feminist narrative should be told, or what a strong female protagonist should look like or act like. Female protagonists these days are feisty, they know exactly what they want, but there's this other kind of woman who feels she's vulnerable, who feels she's weak, or she's conditioned to believe she is weak, or she has no control over her life. And I was this woman at some point in my life. So it was very important for me to write about a woman who is introverted, insecure, fearful, but her life's journey teaches her not only to overcome external obstacles, but also to believe in her own worth and in her own light. And Purple Lotus talks about a very important topic, which is domestic violence, which is prevalent not only in India, but also in the Indian American community. And according to one study on domestic abuse, 42% of women said they had been physically and or sexually abused by their male partner in their lifetime. And 37% of women said they had been victimized in the past year. And that's a huge number. So I believe that stories that personalize a victim's experience or an immigrant's experiences are very relevant, very necessary, important, and also very relatable. Purple Lotus, fortunately for me, is off to a strong start and open to some glowing reviews, and it gives me great pleasure to mention a couple of them. So, Newsweek magazine says, Rao's resonant novel is an ode to the value of personal dignity and the importance of being true to oneself that carries on long after the final chapter. Miss Magazine, which is a top American feminist magazine, founded by Gloria Steinem, says, touching on themes of abandonment, victimization, and tradition, the novel is one of beauty and intimacy. Purple Lotus is available on Amazon India, and I come across a lot of bookstagrammers and book lovers on my social media handles, and who are hoping, like me, that my book will find a home with an Indian publisher so that it becomes more widely available in the Indian market. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed on this. And until then, you can reach me on my website, on social media, but also via my website, www.veenaspulse.com. That's VEENASPULSE.com. And I'm also very active on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So I hope to see you all there. And thank you very much, PILF, once again.
What is it about mythology and mythological stories that were written thousands of years ago that makes them worth reading even today? Considering how patriarchal most of these stories are, what is a feminist like me doing writing such stories? Dashavatara Stories of Lord Vishnu is a collection of 10 short stories based on the 10 most common avatars of Lord Vishnu. The 10 avatars are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, which is a half man, half lion, and from then start the human avatars Vaman, Parshuram, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki. Kalki, of course, is yet to arrive. Each of these 10 avatars are said to have manifested on earth to annihilate evil and restore the balance. They bring back the values of peace, love, and righteousness to an otherwise fragmented world. And each avatar fulfilled its purpose in its own peculiar way. What lessons can we imbibe from them? Can we really be ideal human beings, or do we just quietly accept that we are far from perfect? Is it okay to play games against someone and manipulate them for our own selfish reasons? Or is doing this justified only when it is for a greater good? It was all these and many more questions that prompted me to write these stories and to tell them from my perspective without changing the narrative or the events. There were so many questions that arose in my mind, and my pursuit of answers through these stories was the catalyst to writing them the way I did. And yet, I did not want to provide the answers to the reader because I do not wish to discourage others from asking questions as well. Much like the mythological texts, the stories do provide the answers, but without spoon feeding you. And they also encourage you to find your own path to those answers. The stories in this book are a simple retelling of the stories that we have known since forever, but they are presented in a relevant and contemporary way that brings forth the values and virtues while also highlighting how the lessons are applicable in today's world. When I first began writing Dashavatar stories of Lord Vishnu, the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that's contained in our mythology slowly began to dawn on me. There are lessons regarding power, control, greed, jealousy, egotistical clashes, and all of these are challenges that we face even today. Even though these stories are what we have heard time and again, the stories in this book are different because my attempt has been to reclaim these stories as a rational person who has faith, but not blind faith. As a feminist too, I wanted to see and hear more women characters. So I incorporated that desire of seeing more women speak up and express their feelings and thoughts in this book. I also wanted to explore the impact these avatars had on social beliefs and customs. So it was interesting for me to explore the connection between how the world evolved and how our traditions changed as per the stories in this book. I also explored the connection between the 10 avatars and Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. One of the examples of asking questions and seeking answers is evident from the excerpt I'd like to read for you today. So there are no answers at all, Manu asked, his expression of disappointment evident. That is the answer, my child. How can that be the answer? Manu snapped. This does not satisfy my curiosity at all. This way I will keep seeking answers and my thirst for knowledge will never quench. Yes. Lord Vishnu nodded and smiled again. Manu's jaw dropped in realization, and slowly the significance of the religious texts dawned on him. I hope you enjoy reading this book too. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Would you say that it is possible to create a book of 200 odd pages which encompasses a myriad of relationships based on love, hate, anger, humor, alternate sexuality, incest, ethical dilemma, fatalism, etc.? Well, that is exactly what I have attempted with this book of mine, which is my debut solo attempt. It Happens Stories of Human Relationships, and published by Readomania. This is an anthology of 15 short stories, most of which were entries for the Write India contest. Write India, as you may be aware, is a crowdsourcing platform under the aegis of Times of India. I have been very, very fortunate that a lot of my stories were picked up by the stars of the literary firmament, such as Amitav Ghosh, Ashwin Sanghi, Upamanyu Chatterjee, Tuhin Sinha, Nayantara Sehgal, Vivek Shanbag. And earlier, two of my short stories was picked up by Sudha Murthy and by Ravinder Singh for anthologies that they had curated and published by Penguin. So, why is this book unique? It is unique not just because of the roller coaster of emotions you will experience when you go through the book, which will surprise you with twists, turns, and the sledgehammer endings in most of the stories. The book is unique because it deals with everyday ordinary people. People you feel that you can identify yourself with, or people you may either know personally or someone else who is very close to you knows them. So there is a deep sense of identity which you will develop once you go through this book. Even when we look at the cover, you can find that there is this person in the center who is reaching out to the hearts of two people on either side. I was actually indeed blessed because this cover was created by my daughter who's working and living in the US at this point. Let me now try and read a small excerpt from one of the stories which deals with alternate sexuality. Inside his parents' bedroom, Gotham sat uncertainly on the stool in front of the dresser, looking at his reflection in the mirror, his heart thudding. He hated lying to his mother. She was the best friend he had ever had. Yet he had been incarcerated and helpless in the compulsions of his body and mind. He had tried to fight the all too familiar changes that he had been overcome with in the past few months. He had tried to maintain normalcy with his friends and relationships, and yet had begun to realize that he was fighting a losing battle. This is not the person I want to be. This is not what my genes want. This is not what my body is crying out for. A man is only half human. He is conceited and selfish. He is cruel and hates. He believes that with power he can conquer all. I want to be a woman, kind and gentle. She is the true epitome of a complete human being. She procreates. She wins with love and elevates. She does not coerce with power and deprecates. Yet my feminine identity is trapped in a man's body. What do I do? It has been an absolute pleasure to present my book to you, and I sincerely hope that you will pick this up, read it, enjoy it, and savor every story there. My name is Bhashar Mukherjee. I'm an engineer and MBA by profession, although I quit my corporate life in 2005 and set up my own consultancy and training company and started writing from about 2014. I wish and sincerely hope that with all the kind words that the authors have bestowed upon me, I'm able to take my work further.
This is Prayashi Barua, and I'm here to talk to you about my debut novel, The Mystic Sinners. So, can there be any sin around mysticism? Or can mystics be sinners? These are the very questions that are the profound essence of my book, The Mystic Sinners. So, what really is the plot line of The Mystic Sinners? It is essentially a story about two women, Maya and Kamakshi, who suffer grievously at the behest of tantrics. Consequently, their friend Ranbir, a documentary filmmaker, undertakes the mission of making a documentary in the very mystic land of Banaras to expose all those who misuse occult practices. As the documentary progresses, the trio contends with a series of threats from unidentified sources, from severed heads of endangered species to cryptic messages, and finally, the abduction of a person who was instrumental in helping with the documentary. The trio faces it all. So, folks, read The Mystic Sinners to find out if the trio would succeed in unearthing the secret, or will they succumb to the dark, deadly powers who are probably privy and guarding this very powerful secret. So, what really is unique about my book? I would say the research, because the research has been unconventional and I would say guided by the mystic energies itself. I sojourned to Banaras, met up with mystics, spoke to random practitioners to understand and feel the essence of what really happens in this very secret and forbidden world of Tantra, to bring to you a story which would make you go through a series of conflicts and hopefully resolve it at a very profound and mystic level. Why did I write The Mystic Sinners? Because I feel this was my karmic life mission to write a story that reiterates the sanctity of ancient and medieval India's esoteric practices and juxtapose it with the scale of corruption and tarnishing that these practices have undergone today. Now, for some lines from The Mystic Sinners. You mean the truth about its purity. I am beginning to conclude that there can be nothing sacred about it. Perhaps in the olden days, people were too simple to understand that Tantra is nothing but illusion. My guess is that evil men had fabricated their own cunning formulas to create this illusion and trick people. And over the years, these formulas came to be perceived as subsects of Tantra. Maya finished sarcastically. Well, I won't dwell on the passage more and go on to the cover. The cover has equally been precious to me as the experience of writing The Mystic Sinners. Subtly sensual and compellingly intriguing, the cover is about a woman, is all about a nude woman facing a con mystic.
Love story. Girl meets boy and then happily ever after, right? Uh-uh. Hi, I'm Rituparna Ghosh, the author of Unloved in Love. Unloved in Love, though, is a romance, but it's not just another love story. It's a story about its protagonist, Kiara, Karan, and Kyle. Kiara is the youngest of three siblings. She spent her childhood living under the shadows of her brother and sister. She thinks starting her own venture would get her the maternal love that she craves. But she falls in love with Kyle Wolf, a Brit who's in India for an exchange program. Kyle knows he has 6 months to live the life he wants before he has to go back to London and submit to his father's tyranny. But the boy who's not been allowed to pick his own breakfast cereal, would that boy be allowed to pick his love? And then there is Karan, hopelessly in love and hopelessly stubborn. What choice does he have? Unloved in Love is a story about these characters. Characters who are flawed, who make mistakes, who make stupid choices, who are rude, occasionally unkind, pain in all the wrong areas. Yet, they are the characters who pick themselves, who move forward, and who redeem themselves. It's a story about imperfect people, people with flaws the size of crater, yet lovable. In fact, when I was growing up, romance was food for my soul. In my teens, I devoured romance books. But when the rose tinted glasses came off, and when I became an adult, at least I hope I became an adult, I realized that while I loved the perfect romance and it gave me that warm and fuzzy feeling, I was really happy seeing the protagonist ride away to sunset. I also wanted to know more. I wanted to read about people who are real, like me and you, who brush their feeling under carpet, who avoid conflict, who make stupid choices, and who fall flat on their faces. I wanted to read about a romance which is not a fairy tale, because really, fairy tales don't exist. Happily ever after is a myth. Love, while it gives you the warm and fuzzies and it's soft and comfortable, but it is also explosive. It is also heartbreaking. It also makes you feel as if all hell has broken loose and that you can't take another step forward. I wanted to read a love story which deals with the dilemma of being an adult. I wanted to read a bit of my book here. No one mentioned once we grow up, there would be no do overs, no magic potion that would cause us to behave rationally and leave our insecurities behind. That growing up involved confrontation and standing up for what you believed in, and that your action and words would often have unpleasant consequences. And each time you fought for any semblance of normalcy, things just more spiraled out of control. And all you wanted to do was to run back home and be a child again, ready to leave the decision making and the choices to adults. But unfortunately, adulting has no holidays. You have to be on duty 24 bar 7, 365 days a year. Unloved in Love is my humble attempt to give my readers a book that talks about real imperfect people. I loved the cover, and my only ask was to have a guitar because guitar also plays a center character in the book. So, for all you music lovers, I think my son explains the title really well. He is 4 years old, and he's telling one of my friends that one of the persons is unloved and the other one is loved. So that's why it's called Unloved in Love. I hope you enjoyed the book as much as I've enjoyed writing it. Thank you so much.
Imagine if you found out that your long dead father could after all be alive and that his disappearance is linked to the mystery of an ancient Hindu kingdom. What would you do if you happen to be the last surviving descendant of the Maharaja of this kingdom, whose invention happens to be the most sought after possession of premier spy agencies of the world? Would you go after the invention yourself and risk losing your life, just like how Jose did that Saturday night at a crowded restaurant? To find out more, read my debut novel, Fab 4 The Legend of Garuda, an action packed adventure filled with thrills and twists and a rather unexpected ending.
Hi, I'm Satya Raganathan, and I'm the co-author of Burma to Bangalore, the autobiography of my father, Lieutenant Colonel V.S. Ranganathan. This book is represented by the bookmakers. Suhail Mathur is our literary agent, and published by Loxley Hall Publishing. The story starts in Burma, where my father was born, and his interesting and idyllic childhood. But when the Japanese bombed Burma during World War II, they had to flee Rangoon and come to India, initially to Allahabad, then to Mumbai, and finally settled in Bangalore. The story then traces his life journey through school, college, and getting caught up in the whole pre-independence fervor. He joined the NCC and then eventually the Indian Territorial Army. He fought in 3 wars and received many medals and has a long and distinguished army career. Even post-retirement, he's had a very energetic and long career in the booming real estate market of Bangalore. A few years ago, he started writing this book, and I started helping him with it. And my role was to ensure that it is accessible to across generations and to as many people as possible. So we picked out interesting stories and have tried to write them as simply and lucidly as possible. Even though it's about my own family, there were stories in it that I didn't know and which I found very charming, like when they were in Allahabad and plucking mangoes in Teen Murti Bhavan, and the young Indira Gandhi told them off. And the grandchildren were very interested to hear that their very calm grandfather was very naughty as a child. So I felt that this book has to be read by other people as well.
And when I talked to Suhail Mathur, who's very enterprising and has a real pulse of the book publishing market, he was very moved and felt that this emotional story needs to reach as many readers as possible. And sure enough, soon we got a contract from Loxley Hall Publishing, who also saw the merit in this memoir and really were very supportive and worked with us as we put in many black and white pictures in this book, which have a very charming and vintage. And the book publishing quality is great. And they were also very cooperative in ensuring that this came out on his 80th birthday, which he celebrated recently. So this book was published a month ago, and since it's been released, it's actually been getting such amazing reviews, not just from family and friends, but from a whole bunch of reviewers, people who have just connected with the story because they have family in Burma, or of talking of Bangalore of a bygone era. So some of the things I've said are, being an exceptional and rare raconteur, and a series of enduring a chimeric quality to the stories, a set of simple tales well told. A superb writing which is interesting, informative, and funny. This book was also recommended by Chardeep Malhotra in News Now as an engrossing story that needs to be read. And also another quote is presented as a delicious and tasty meal. So my hope is, as the winter draws in, that on a cold wintry day you can curl up cozily at home, take a cup of warm coffee or chai, and curl up with this book and read a set of vintage tales which take you through life in a bygone era. And I also hope it inspires some of you to write your own life stories or life stories of other people.
Hi everyone, my name is Malshri Mahajan, and I'm the creator and author of the Singh Sisters Adventure series. The second book in this series is titled The Mystery of the Forbidden Fort, and it was released in November 2020 by the prestigious Loxley Hall Publishing. I thank the organizers of PILF for giving me this opportunity to showcase this book on this platform. A big thank you to the awesome people at the Book Bakers who not just represent me, but have also designed this brilliant book cover. So why should you buy this book? If you're fond of reading detective fiction or adventure stories, if you're fond of solving mysteries by yourselves, or of traveling and trying out new cuisines, you already have a lot in common with the Singh sisters. Although written for young adults, the book has found audience amongst adventure lovers across all ages. Meera and Tara have a knack for finding themselves in mysterious circumstances. This time when they travel to the vibrant city of Jaipur and to the lesser known lanes of Samod, they stumble upon the secrets of a forbidden fort when one of their friends goes missing. There are talks of fabled treasure and some ghost stories. How many of these stories are true? Find out for yourself. Grab your copy on Amazon.in or on Pustak Mandi. Read the book, review the book, and become a part of the adventure. I hope you enjoyed reading this story as much as I enjoyed writing it. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, I'm Apeksha Rao, author of Along Came a Spider, India's first young adult spy thriller, which is soon to be adapted into a web series. I'd like to talk to you about my book a little. Along Came a Spider is the story of Samira Joshi, a 17-year-old girl who wants to be a spy. Samira's parents want her to be a doctor, and Samira finds it very confusing because her parents, who are spies themselves, have trained her to be a spy. Since she was a little girl, her life was one covert operative training manual. So she can't understand why they've done this U-turn regarding the topic of her career. While she's trying to figure that out, Samira stumbles upon a secret sisterhood of teenage spies in Mumbai called the Spiders. Samira wants in. She's very excited about joining such a group. The question is, do the Spiders want her? To find out, read my book, Along Came a Spider. A lot of people have asked me why I chose to write young adult fiction for my debut. Well, to be honest, I'm a teenager at heart. I'm still a teenager at heart, and I think I will always be. So it came naturally to me. When I started writing, I channelized my own teenage fantasies of being a spy into creating what if scenarios. What if a teenager was recruited by an intelligence agency? What if the teenager was trained to be a spy? Is this even possible? Can teenagers be trained into espionage? And that's how it all began. So, my book is very apt for the current social climate, where girls are struggling to smash the glass ceiling. Through my book, I wanted to tell today's girls that you shouldn't allow traditional gender barriers to hold you back from doing what you want to do. The girls in my book, they have taken on roles that traditionally teenagers don't usually take on, at least in India. And they do it with elan, they do it with such flair. You have Samira, who's a born spy. You have Tina, who leads all their missions. Then there's Debbie, the genius, who is a hacker and an inventor. Then we have Sweetie, who is a martial arts expert. And we have Millie, who's an explosives expert. So all these girls have taken on roles that you don't normally find teenagers taking on. And so this is the message I wanted to convey through my book. You can do what you want to. As long as you're willing to work hard, the sky's your limit. Nothing can hold you back. Another question that I'm often asked is, what is the target audience for your book? So while the protagonist of my book is a teenager and the other characters are teens as well, anyone above the age of 14 can enjoy this book. If you're young at heart and you enjoy a good spy thriller that is laced with humor and sarcasm, I'm sure you'll enjoy reading Along Came a Spider.
The message that I want to convey from this book is basically I want to demolish two myths. One, that Indian crime fiction thrillers are not as good as those from other countries. And second, you need high technology and high budget for everything. I want to demolish these myths, and this book is an attempt towards that. That first, Indian crime thriller can be as good as anywhere else in the world. And secondly, low budget and low tech, but aided with high imagination, can very easily defeat high tech and high budget, the Raft of Imagination. I choose the crime thriller genre because, unlike any other genre, this is most fast paced and keeps the readers hooked. How Done It probably is the highest form of crime fiction thrillers, and it challenges and stretches the reader's imagination and intelligence to the maximum. Because the reader will keep wondering, how could such murders have taken place? For instance, in this book, a person is murdered twice at the same instant. How could this have happened? Two people drink from the same glass, the same drink at the same time in front of 100 persons. One dies, the other doesn't. And forensic investigations reveal nothing, no poisons. So how did this murder happen? A person enters a hotel room and within 5 minutes, he dies of poisoning. No traces of poison anywhere. No question of anyone having entered the room. So how did these murders take place? And this book, I believe, should be a very good read for a number of reasons. First of all, the characters are typical Indian urban educated characters, just like you and me. They go through the same trials, they face the same frustrations, have the same triumphs at work, in life, in relationships, etc. Then I already mentioned about the how done it. There is also a who done it as to who was the murderer. Third, ironclad evidence to nab the murderer also has to be brought about. And the last but not the least is the race against time, because the protagonists have got only 7 days to achieve everything. We have got very strong lady protagonists as well and in this novel. The antagonist is also extremely strong, resilient, and versatile. And last but not the least, India to many foreigners is considered a land of snake charmers and snake trainers, etc. But most Indians of this generation probably have no idea about snake charmers and how they train the snakes. In this book, considerable attention is devoted towards that, and it's also connected to how the murders are actually solved. So I think that should make, all in all, an interesting read for all of you. Please do buy this book. Thank you.
We hope that we have left you itching to hit a bookstore and grab some of these books. Now, for our next session, 2062, A World That AI Made, it will begin in 15 minutes. Join us for the same at 12:45 p.m.